Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the absolutely essential legal and ethical rules that every student, learner, and creator literally needs to know before they put their work out into the world. Whether you're designing a digital poster, mixing a new track, or putting together a live performance, the reality is that creating art doesn't happen in a vacuum. Your creations are tied to real rights and real responsibilities. So by the end of our time together, you're going to have a rock-solid, step-by-step framework to make sure your creative work isn't just original, but also completely legally sound and culturally respectful. Let's get into it.
Okay, take a look at this real-world visual dilemma. We've got the logo for Baha'u'llah, which is a government project in Quezon Province, right alongside the logo for Tahanang Pinakamasaya, a noontime show that aired on the GMA network. Just look closely at the striking similarities in the overall design, the color palette, and how the elements are arranged. It's kind of wild, right? This exact comparison sparked a massive controversy and so much public criticism that the noontime show actually had to completely recreate their logo. When copyright law looks at two works with similar content like this, it zeroes in on originality to figure out if one is infringing on the other. This just brilliantly illustrates why originality and copyright matter out there in the wild. They aren't just abstract, boring concepts from a textbook, they are the literal boundary lines protecting your creative identity.
Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the art of originality, copyright versus intellectual property, the attribution myth, cultural respect in art, the 6-step audit, and finally, a lesson recap and takeaways.
Part 1. The Art of Originality, the Two Pillars of Creation.
You know, creating art isn't just about what you output. The entire creative industry is basically built on two massive pillars: original expression and responsible use. Think about it. It's incredibly rare to create something entirely out of thin air, right? We're all inspired by what came before us. We use external images, sounds, texts, performance elements, the whole shebang. But your responsibility as a creator is twofold. First, you've got to inject your own original expression into the world. And second, when you do borrow or build upon existing work, you absolutely must use it responsibly. You have to respect the livelihood, the income, and the rights of the original creators.
Part 2. Copyright versus intellectual property. Knowing the law.
Let's tackle the bigger of the two concepts first. Intellectual property, or IP, is essentially this massive umbrella term. It covers all the legal protections granted to creators and inventors for the original creations of their minds. We're talking about a huge range of things here: brand names, logos, full-blown inventions, industrial designs, and artistic works. The entire purpose of IP is to make sure that creators get fair recognition and, honestly, just as importantly, financial compensation for their innovations. It's the broad legal framework that steps in and says, hey, if you made this, you own it.
Copyright, on the other hand, is just one specific slice of that big IP pie. It is the legal framework that gives artists exclusive control over their tangible, original expressions. So this applies specifically to things like music compositions, paintings, choreography, photographs, and films. Copyright gives the owner the exclusive right to say exactly who gets to reproduce, distribute, display, or remix their work. It's basically the shield that protects the specific way an idea was expressed by an artist.
To see how this actually plays out locally, let's look at some real-world examples. Think about the high-profile case of Ang Huling El Bimbo the musical. They faced a massive copyright infringement dispute over the use of songs by the famous pop rock group Eraserheads. Then there's the huge trademark battle where the iconic comedy trio TVJ successfully defended their right to the Eat Bulaga brand against Tape Inc., proving they originated it. But hey, it happens on a much smaller scale too. Imagine Kian, a local painter. He walked into a nearby cafe only to find they had printed his social media uploads onto canvases for their wall decor without ever asking his consent. Or take Nelson, a consultant who was just sitting in the audience at a regional Namsha Rondala competition only to hear his own specific musical arrangement being played by a competing group without his permission. In every single one of these cases, someone's specific creative expression was used in an unauthorized way.
Moving on to Part 3, the attribution myth. Credit does not equal permission.
This right here is probably the biggest trap young digital creators fall into. The idea that just leaving a thank you note or tagging an artist, which is attribution, means you have the legal license to use their work. That is a massive myth. We so often think, well, I put credits to the owner in the caption, so I'm safe, right? Absolutely wrong. Attribution is literally just identifying the source. A license is the actual legal permission dictating how you can use that protected work. You can perfectly attribute a song to its creator, but if you don't actually have the license to use it, you're still committing copyright infringement.
Always separate these two questions in your head. Did I credit them? And am I actually allowed to use this?
Let's put you in a practical scenario. Picture this. You download a super catchy, protected song for your school project's public promotional video, and you haven't checked the license terms. You might think it fits the vibe perfectly, but if you haven't checked that license, the legally and ethically correct move is to stop. Do not hit post. You need to identify the rights holder, check the license, and actually secure permission. If you can't get it, you have to swap the track for appropriately licensed material. Pausing like this isn't a failure at all. It's a responsible, professional decision that protects you from infringement and respects the original creator.
Part 4. Cultural respect in art, beyond legalities.
Okay, so here's the thing. Just because you can legally use something doesn't automatically mean you are using it respectfully. For example, you might find a piece of traditional music or an indigenous textile pattern that happens to be in the public domain, meaning it has no copyright protection whatsoever. You have the total legal right to use it, but using it entirely out of its proper context, maybe for some trivial or strictly commercial purpose, that can be deeply irresponsible and incredibly harmful to the originating community. Legal compliance is literally just the bare minimum. Ethical responsibility is the standard we need to aim for.
So what does true ethical creation actually demand? It requires us to look at a few core elements. Are you using the material with contextual accuracy? Like, do you understand what it actually means? Have you engaged in any consultation with the originating communities, or are you kind of just taking it? Are you applying deep cultural sensitivity? At the end of the day, you have to make sure you aren't exploiting a community's heritage for your own content in a way that causes unfair effects. When you're incorporating cultural expressions, respect and proper representation have to be the things guiding your artistic decisions.
Part 5. The 6-step audit, your practical framework.
All right, here is your ultimate pre-publication workflow. Think of it as a 6-step rights and respect audit that takes you from factual investigation straight through to ethical execution. First, you investigate. Step 1. Identify every single external element you used. Images, sounds, text, everything. Step 2. Determine exactly who owns them. Step 3. Verify you actually have the permission or license to use them. If you skip these, your foundation is basically crumbling. Once that's done, you move to ethical execution. Step 4. Provide accurate and complete attribution. Step 5. Review the cultural and business implications. Ask yourself, is this sensitive and fair? And finally, Step 6. Document it all. Record your sources, your permissions, and your decisions. If your project can't pass this audit, do not publish it until you fix the gaps.
Finally, Part 6. Lesson recap and takeaways. Solidifying your knowledge.
Let's bring it all together. From this explainer, I want you to remember these core truths. First, intellectual property is the broad umbrella, while copyright protects the specific, tangible expressions of an artist. Second, remember our busted myth. Giving credit is attribution, but it absolutely does not replace legal permission or a license. Third, infringement happens when you use protected material without a lawful basis. Fourth, legality isn't everything. True cultural respect requires accuracy, proper context, and sensitivity to communities. And finally, your best defense is that 6-step audit. Doing this work early on protects the income of creators and builds lasting trust with your audience. So before you hit publish on your next big idea, I want you to ask yourself this one absolutely vital question. Can you confidently explain the source, the allowed use, the proper credit, and the cultural sensitivity of every single element you borrowed? If the answer is yes, you're not just a creator, you are a truly ethical, professional contributor to the arts industry. Keep asking yourself this question, keep auditing your work, and your creative journey is going to be both deeply impactful and respectful. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.